She was smaller than anyone expected. Curled up inside a plastic bubble, her tiny frame barely moved. Her tongue stuck out at an odd angle, and her body looked too fragile to belong to a real puppy. But there she was, a little golden fluff ball fighting for every breath, wrapped in blankets and hope. They called her Bubble Puppy because, for the first weeks of her life, she lived inside an incubator, cut off from the world and clinging to life like a flame in the wind. No one knew if she would make it. But from the very start, this little dog had something special, a spark, a spirit, a quiet kind of strength. When rescuers first met Bubble Puppy, she was barely more than a week old and already facing an uphill battle. She had been born with multiple challenges, a misshapen jaw, trouble eating, and breathing difficulties. She couldn't nurse like other puppies, couldn't crawl like them, and didn't even seem to respond the way most newborns would. Her future was uncertain, but while her body was weak, her will to live was fierce. Every day she held on. Every day she kept trying. And in her own quiet way, she let the people around her know she wasn't ready to give up. That's when a foster stepped in, someone with experience, patience, and a whole lot of love. They knew Bubble Puppy didn't just need food or medicine, she needed time, safety, and comfort. So they created a little world for her. Warm blankets, soft toys, and constant care. The incubator became her cocoon. Inside it, she grew stronger little by little. Every tiny movement, every blink, every sleepy sigh was a milestone. She wasn't ready for the outside world yet, but she was getting there slowly, stubbornly, beautifully. As the days turned into weeks, something amazing started to happen. Her eyes lit up. Her legs got stronger. Her tongue, which used to flop out uncontrollably, started to tuck in just a little. Her head would tilt when someone talked to her. She was paying attention, soaking everything in like a sponge. It wasn't just her body that was changing, her personality was starting to shine through. She was goofy. She was curious. And most of all, she was determined. There were setbacks, of course. There always are in stories like this. Some nights were scary. Some feedings didn't go well. There were moments when her caregivers weren't sure she would pull through. But Bubble Puppy had made a silent promise to herself, and maybe to them too, that she was going to fight. And every time things got tough, she pushed back harder. She had people in her corner, cheering her on, adjusting feeding tubes, wiping her face, whispering words of encouragement. And she heard them. Maybe not with her ears, but with her heart. By the time she opened her eyes fully and started exploring her tiny space, something had shifted. She was no longer just surviving, she was beginning to live. The puppy who once fit in the palm of a hand now had opinions, preferences, and even a bit of sass. She barked softly when she wanted attention. She wobbled toward her stuffed animals like they were old friends. And that incubator that once felt like a lifeline? It was starting to feel a little too small. One morning, her foster noticed something different. Bubble Puppy was standing at the edge of her soft bedding, staring at the world beyond the plastic walls. Her paws pressed gently against the surface, and her eyes seemed to say, "I'm ready." It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But in that quiet moment, something big had changed. The little puppy who had spent her life in a bubble was ready to step out of it. But stepping into the world wasn't going to be easy. The world was loud, big, unpredictable, full of sounds, smells, and sensations she'd never experienced. Could she handle it? Would she be overwhelmed? Was she strong enough? Her foster hesitated. They had grown so protective of her, worried about every little detail. Letting her out felt like letting go. But at the same time, they knew they couldn't hold her back. This was her moment, and ready or not, she had earned it. So, with trembling hands and hopeful hearts, they opened the incubator door. Bubble Puppy paused for a second. Then, she took one slow, shaky step forward, and just like that, everything changed. But what happened next? Did Bubble Puppy embrace the world she'd never known? Did she run, play, bark, or freeze, unsure of the vastness around her? That's the part of her story that will surprise you. because what she did next wasn't just brave. It was unforgettable. Bubble Puppy took her first step outside the incubator with all the courage her tiny body could gather. Her legs wobbled under her, and for a second it looked like she might fall back, but she didn't. She steadied herself, blinked up at her foster mom, and took another step. It wasn't fast or graceful, but it was hers. For the first time in her life, she was walking into the world, not just surviving in it. Her foster family held their breath, watching closely as she explored the soft rug just outside her bubble. Everything was new, the feel of the floor under her paws, the open air, the scents that drifted in from the room. She sniffed, paused, then wagged her tiny tail. It was a small movement, but it felt like a celebration. She looked up with that same spark in her eyes, the one that said, "See? I told you I could do this." From that moment on, Bubble Puppy began discovering life in the way every dog should, through joy, through play, and through love. She had daily adventures around the living room, meeting new toys, crawling into cozy beds, and occasionally trying to chew on socks. She still had her challenges, her jaw wasn't perfect, and sometimes feeding required a little extra care, but nothing slowed her down. She learned to eat on her own, to sit up stronger, and even to chase after toys with a clumsy determination that made everyone watching burst out laughing. Her foster mom documented every step, not for views or attention, but because every little milestone felt like a miracle. And soon, people around the world started noticing too. Videos of Bubble Puppy's progress spread across social media, and strangers began cheering her on from afar. Kids wrote notes. Families sent little gifts. Everyone saw something in her that reminded them of resilience, of hope, of what it means to keep going even when the odds are stacked against you. With time, Bubble Puppy's world got bigger. She started going outside, feeling grass under her feet and sunlight on her fur. Her reaction? Pure joy. She barked a tiny, squeaky bark as if to say, "This is amazing!" She rolled in the grass, chased bugs, and watched birds fly overhead. The puppy who once lived in a bubble was now learning what it meant to be a dog. A real, playful, curious, funny little dog. Eventually, the question came up, was she ready for adoption? Could she move on to a forever home? Her foster mom hesitated. They had bonded deeply. After all those long nights, the feeding tubes, the quiet moments of doubt and joy, how do you say goodbye to someone who fought beside you? But deep down, she knew the answer. Bubble Puppy didn't just deserve a home. She deserved the home. One where she'd be loved not because she was fragile, but because she was fierce and funny and full of heart. And then, the perfect family came along. They understood her story, her needs, and most importantly, they saw her for who she really was, not a sad rescue, but a warrior with a big personality. They promised to keep cheering her on, to give her space to grow, and to always be patient, just like her foster mom had been. Saying goodbye wasn't easy. There were tears, hugs, and one last cuddle before Bubble Puppy curled up in her new mom's arms, completely at peace. She wasn't scared anymore. She wasn't stuck in a bubble. She was where she belonged, safe, loved, and finally free to live the life she had fought so hard for. Today, Bubble Puppy is thriving. She runs, she plays, and she brings joy to everyone she meets. Her journey reminds us that strength doesn't always come in big, loud ways. Sometimes it shows up in quiet determination, in soft steps, in small wins that build into something incredible. She taught everyone around her what it means to never give up, no matter how tiny you are or how tough the start. Her story isn't just about rescue. It's about resilience, kindness, and what happens when someone believes in you, even when the world doesn't. Bubble Puppy may have started her life inside a plastic bubble, but she didn't stay there. She broke free, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. And in doing so, she reminded us all that every life matters. Every second counts. And sometimes, the smallest fighters leave the biggest impact. Thanks for following Bubble Puppy's journey. If her story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible rescue transformations. Because every click helps spread more love and maybe helps the next little fighter find their way home.